A fire in an abandoned underground mine in Preston County has area residents concerned, and the DEP's Division of Abandoned Minelands and Reclamation working on a solution.
The DEP's Jake Glantz joins us now with more.
Well, Greg and Kelly, it's not often that you'll hear a fire compared to an iceberg, but like an iceberg, most of what makes these abandoned mine fires dangerous is hidden deep below the surface.
The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke. It swirls up from below, through cracks in the earth, and mixes with a steady, cold rain. The fog it forms drifts over and partially obscures the blackened stumps of this once green hillside. But it's what inspectors and engineers can't see that's causing concern.
The mine fire has grown at a rate that isn't common with your typical mine fire. The fire itself has increased exponentially over the past year, and so that's not something that we typically see with mine fires. Oftentimes they will smoke and produce some flames, but not to the degree that we've seen at Broken Run.
The site is called Broken Run, but little else is known about the abandoned mine works that run beneath the mountain.
We have no mine maps for the site. We have no information from the Geologic Survey or the West Virginia Miners Health and Safety. We don't know anything about the mine as it occurred prior to 1977, so we're going off the physical features that remain at the site. If we had mine maps, we'd have some idea as to what direction the fire may travel, and it would absolutely help out with our abatement plan if we knew where the passages within the mine complex existed.
Crews have already drilled several boreholes, probing the mountain to try and determine the extent of the fire. One thing they know for sure, it's hot, extremely hot.
So the temperatures that we've encountered at this particular site are so high that we can't get accurate readings. We know they exceed 1,000 degrees in some of the hotter areas, but to tell you exactly how hot they are, we don't know because the heat is so intense, it's giving us false readings on the instruments.
Fighting fires in an underground coal seam is nothing like fighting a fire on the surface. For one thing, you can't use water.
You can't put water on coal refuse fires, and we can't pump water down into the mine complex because the temperatures are so extreme. You can cause a steam explosion. The last thing you want to do is to start pumping water into the fire itself, because you can actually cause more damage than you intend due to the possibility of a steam explosion. If conditions allow, what we like to do is to actually excavate the burning material, take that material off-site, spread it out, and then try to put the burning material out in small increments until we can accomplish the overall project.
That's what crews did here in Boone County last year at this coal refuse pile fire, and the previous year in Whitehall in Marion County, the two most recent emergency mine fire projects handled by the DEP. In those cases, as with Broken Run, the Federal Office of Surface Mining, Remediation, and Enforcement allowed the DEP to use emergency procedures to address the problem.
OSM doesn't typically allow us to include mine fires in the inventory, and that's because of the cost associated with abating them. So right now the state has almost $1 billion worth of mine fires that we know of which are not included in the National Abandoned Mineland Inventory. So only when a fire becomes problematic enough to where you have a structure or citizens that are at risk will OSM allow us to go in and fund that particular project. So the fires we've done over the past few years have been situations where if we didn't act, there was potential for someone to lose their home.
But conditions at Broken Run are different from those other two fires.
We've drilled the site and we found that the coal pavement, or the bottom of the coal seam, is approximately 80 feet below the surface, and that varies depending on where on the hill you are, but on average it's approximately 80 feet. And that's really the problem that we face in this particular situation. The overall mine complex that could be on fire, we feel is close to 60 acres. Right now there's approximately 15 acres that are on fire. We've identified two areas that we feel we can create grout curtains or cutoff trenches to prevent the fire from migrating to those other two areas, approximately 20 acres in size, each section. And so what we hope is to be able to contain the fire within a 20-acre area. Given the rock strata above the coal and the fact that we've got about 80 feet of that rock above the coal, doing an extraction and removal of the coal isn't feasible. We'd be looking at tens of millions of dollars to do that.
The best way to visualize what's happening underground at the site is to imagine a wood stove with a damper in the bottom to let air in and a chimney at the top to vent out heat and smoke. At Broken Run, that's an outcrop of the coal seam.
And so what we found, the holes around the outcrop are actually pulling air into the mine fire, and through cracks and vents on the top of the mountain, the smoke is exiting. And that's part of the reason why the fire has intensified as much as it has in as short of a period of time as we've seen. So our first phase is going to be to go in and close off all the openings to the coal. Now once we do that and we've got the fire somewhat contained, the second phase will be to go in and ensure or create cutoff trenches or grout curtains to prevent the fire to migrate into workings that haven't burned yet.
That first phase is estimated to cost around $180,000.
We don't know what any subsequent phases will cost until we know for sure what we're going to do. A few of the ideas that we've discussed and some of the plans our engineers are looking at are either creating an open trench to sever the burning fuel from the fuel that hasn't caught on fire yet, or using a grout curtain to try to prevent the fire from migrating into unburned areas. So once engineers do what they do and run their calculations, come up with yardages and whatnot, then we'll sit down and take a look at not just the cost of the project and how effective those potential fixes will be, but we also have to look at our budget, because our budgets have been cut drastically over the past 5 years. This particular project is going to present a budgetary problem for our office, given the fact that we know it's going to be a multi-million-dollar project.
And just the tip of a potentially billion-dollar iceberg.
Work to begin addressing the fire at Broken Run is expected to begin in January, and because all of AML's funding is currently budgeted for other projects, Rice and his staff must assess their other planned projects to determine which can be delayed to fund this project. For Environment Matters, I'm Jake Glantz.
Thanks, Jake. We'll continue to follow this developing story in upcoming editions of Environment Matters.